Here we go. Moment of truth.
There you go.
Where we at? Oh, nah. Say it ain't so. Say it ain't so, Joey. That means I've had the 101 in 50% of my entries up to this point. And I sound like I'm complaining because I know people want that spot. But, like, man, guess I'm just blessed. Hope McCaffrey doesn't tear his ACL because that would be unfortunate. Should I go off the board here? Because, you do, in a tournament like this, you want to have a unique construction, right? How many 101 drafters are going to start their roster with Patrick Mahomes? $500 million man. All right, no need to make you guys wait here. McCaffrey 101. Barkley 102. Sticking with Zeke, eh?
Dude put in the chat, wow, Ben, first pick and you're doing a video for this? Coincidence or ... Shout out to Willis is awesome.
That's funny.
Michael Thomas is routinely going at pick 4 in every draft that I do.
So we've got Kamara at 5, Thomas 4, Mixon 6, and Mixon at 6, eh?
Joe Mixon at 6 is surprising.
Interesting.
See, Dalvin Cook is routinely falling to the later half of the first round. That's why. I mean, if you're in the 7th or 8th spot, Kenyon Drake, wow.
See, you know
Derrick
what?
Henry.
Maybe these good people are watching my rankings videos. I have Kenyon Drake and Derrick Henry and Miles Sanders all ranked ahead of Dalvin Cook. Right there, Dalvin Cook at 9th, that's where he should go, in my opinion. He shouldn't be going ahead of guys who have high receiving ceilings like Kenyon Drake.
No shot. Oh, yeah, high receiving ceilings.
Well, Derrick Henry is going to get 20 touchdowns, and I know you know that. So, what are we even talking about right now? That's the big dog. I'm mad that you even just disgraced the big dog's name.
Dalvin Cook does have a receiving floor. That's
no, you're right, but do you want, like, why are you even using the word floor with me in a competition that you need to win first place? Truthfully, right? We're gunning for that 10K first place prize. I don't care about floors. I need ceilings in a league like this. No playoffs, right? It's 5,000 to first. You have to draft the highest scoring best ball roster out of 5,000 people. So you need to be unique. You need that high ceiling, like we talked about on our last episode of the podcast.
Not taking Kelsey, even though I realistically could here at pick 18. Could go Aaron Jones here. Could go Chris Godwin. I guess I'm debating on either Jones, Kelsey, or Godwin at this point. Yeah, no shot. If you draft Clyde Edwards-Helaire at this
you might
pick,
be going at
18,
20. Speaking of 20 seconds on the clock.
I'm sweating it out a little bit.
Sweat.
Who should I pick? Godwin, Kelsey, or Aaron Jones?
Galladay, Josh Jacobs still on the board. Chris Godwin. I respect the pick. Travis Kelce, that's unfortunate. I was hoping to land my boy.
The God himself.
Oh, God.
Alright. You took McCaffrey with your first pick, so you could double down on Aaron Jones.
I don't
or
like
even
Aaron
Josh
Jones,
Jacobs here.
And I don't like Josh Jacobs. But see, my standard pick here would be Kenny Galladay. But like I was talking about, I've already gone McCaffrey and then took in Galladay at both turns in the other two drafts that I had the 101 in. So I'm not going to go Galladay here to switch it up a little bit. I think I'm going to go all-out running back with this team. And I'm going to draft Aaron Jones as my running back too. And then I'm going to draft Clyde Edwards-Helaire as my running back 3 because the important thing is ceiling, and give me a versatile receiving back in the Chiefs offense.
I mean, I may or may not agree with that pick there, but he is your RB3, so I guess you can't really complain about that. If you're going 0 wide receivers, which is an interesting strategy. I could go Josh Jacobs
He's falling
here.
below ADP. I think you got to give my boy Kenny some love here, honestly. Underrated chance to be a top 5 wide receiver, I think.
Could go Kenny. Could surprise and go Lamar or Patty Mahomes.
Would be interesting.
You know what?
It's a solid pick. It's a solid pick. I love Kenny Golladay this year. I mean, he was on a tear for the first 8 games when Stafford was healthy. Still finished with really strong numbers across the board. I mean, if Stafford's healthy for a full year, could be Galladay's year. Josh Jacobs goes right after. Yeah, he was due to go. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I'm not going to take a guy like Josh Jacobs ahead of Edwards-Helaire. You know, there's like 3 guys in the backfield who are going to siphon all of Jacobs' receiving work. That's just too important in a full PPR format like this. And, like, what's the upside of the Raiders' scoring offense? You know? That's how I feel.
Very
I mean, they could be better this year. You know, I like some of the guys like Ruggs. Well, really just Ruggs and Waller, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just not high on that offense with Derek Carr and Marcus Mariota. What a uninspiring duo of quarterbacks. With the 37th pick. So you're on the board here. You've got Zeke, Golladay, and Chris Godwin. 1 running back, 2 wide receivers. Where are you going?
Yeah, I could go with my 3rd wide receiver since some of these running backs I'm not too fond of. I do like Jonathan Taylor. I could go with him right here. As there is, you know, a lot of value left at wide receiver. I mean, you're definitely taking 2 wide receivers. Fishboy will probably take 2 wide receivers. So you have to take into account, you know, everybody else around you and what they have
I'm not a lock to take
draft
receiver.
as well.
I'll tell you that.
And that's an edge that you can get by looking at people's
Don't get auto picks, bro.
So
4 seconds.
I'm gonna go with
Cooper Kupp. I like that pick. Adam Thielen goes right after him. I mean, I think that's a pretty good spot for Thielen, in my opinion. I usually don't see myself going there too often. Now, I'm tempted to go Melvin Gordon with one of these picks and just, you know, guarantee 20 points, I feel like, at both of my running back spots each and every week with that core of 4 guys, McCaffrey, Jones, Edwards-Helaire, and Gordon. But I think realistically, that just would kind of stop me from taking any sort of running back value that I found in the draft because it would just be pointless and I would probably be in a position where I have to reach on other positions to fill it out. So I am going to balance out the roster here and go with 2 wide receivers, both guys that I mentioned a moment ago. A.J. Brown, who I know I'm higher on than you, and then I'm going to cap it off with Calvin Ridley with the first pick of the 5th round, who I really do like this year.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm not too high on A.J. Brown. I don't like him as, wide receiver 1. But I do like Calvin Ridley, so I guess you kind of balance it out. So Zach Ertz just went. And I'm definitely going to take a running back here. And, you do bring up a good point with Melvin Gordon, so I could go there. I could also go with Jonathan Taylor. I guess that's who I'm debating right now. Both have backup running backs that can eat into their potential workload with Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor, both in Indy, and then Melvin Gordon, Phillip Lindsay in Denver. but I think Melvin Gordon has a little bit more upside this year, so I'm going to go with Melvin.
That's a solid pick. I think that the
RB2.
Broncos' offense is pretty quietly loaded with talent. I mean, some people are on that, but their defense is fantastic as well. And Melvin Gordon is kind of an underrated back at this point. You know, I mean, he's been nothing but consistent for as long as he's pretty much been in the league, maybe minus that first year. But after that, he's been extremely solid. So, yeah.
He's been a solid running back, but an interesting stat is he's never had over 3.9 yards per carry in any season besides 2018. So his effectiveness is definitely, wishy-washy, I would say. But in Denver, I think he has a good chance to score a good amount of touchdowns. And in the 5th round, I'll take a shot at him as my RB2, especially since I don't have any exposure to him on any of my 3 other teams. So I could, with this pick, realistically get my wide receiver 4 or even my RB3. I'm not too high on any of these running backs left. How do you feel about these running backs?
I like one of them a lot, but I'm not going to tell you which one till I'm up. Actually, I mean, I like all 3 that I have on my list. I mean, my rankings are custom, but Singletary, Swift, and Hunt are 3 guys that I like a lot right there. Yeah, going with Singletary, that's solid. T.Y. Hilton. I like that pick a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely debating on getting Singletary or T.Y. Hilton.
This is like a term that I love right here because I get Stephon Diggs as my wide receiver 3. That's incredibly solid. And then as my running back 4, I'm going to take Kareem Hunt, who I think has a lot of upside on a week-to-week basis. And say Nick Chubb gets hurt, he's top 5 running back in the league on a week-to-week basis. So he's that rare combination of like high weekly floor from his receiving role and just insane league-winning upside. I love Kareem Hunt this year.
Yeah, I like Kareem Hunt as well. I think he's a solid pick right there. And I think I'm gonna go with a wide receiver at this pick.
DeAndre
There's not
Swift
too many running backs that I like at this point. I mean, I don't know. It's just I just want to avoid, what is it? I'm blanking on the name. Backfield committees. I want to avoid those at all costs. And I think Kerryon Johnson is still a good running back. So they're going to split time. Could go with J.K. Dobbins for some upside, but I think I'm going to go with a wide receiver here. And I'm gonna reach a little right here.
Interesting. That is interesting. Will Fuller.
Yeah.
At 63.
Will Fuller, 12 picks above ADP. I think if he's healthy, his ceiling is, one of the highest out of any wide receiver in the NFL. And as my wide receiver 4, I think he's a solid pick there. Even though there's probably a good chance he won't make it through the season. So, but if he does, he could definitely jump into wide receiver 2 category.
My only issue with that pick is that, not Devontae Parker so much, but guys like Cortland Sutton. I like A.J. Green in that spot, Marquise Brown. A.J. Green goes 2 picks later, but, you agreed with me on the podcast with the take that Brandon Cooks is realistically the Texans wide receiver 1. That's my real problem with Will Fuller going. It's just the value that Cooks offers going so much later, and at worst I feel like is the 1B to Will Fuller's 1A, and realistically could be the wide receiver 1 in Houston now.
Yeah, he definitely could be. But as it stands right now, I think Will Fuller has a higher ceiling, even though he may not be the wide receiver 1 in Houston. And then he already has, chemistry with Deshaun Watson, familiarity in the offense. So if he's healthy, his ceiling is enormous. We've seen it, in certain weeks of the year, especially last season when he dropped a 50-point game. One of only 5 wide receivers to drop 50 fantasy points in a game. So with that ceiling, I think it was just too hard to pass up.
Okay, Dobbins to be a running back 4. I like that pick. And there goes Watson. And let's see here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take Brandon Cooks. Like we just talked about, I think he has a lot of potential to really thrive in this Houston offense with all the targets vacated from DeAndre Hopkins. And then I am going to come back and really take the last quarterback that I have in my tier 2. Obviously Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes are in the tier 1, and then realistically I think there are about 5 more guys that have upside to be that transcendent quarterback, mix of rushing and, throwing upside. It's Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, and then my boy right here, Josh Allen, who I love this year and pairs right with Stephon Diggs, who I've already got. So that's my Bills stack. And yeah, I'm all about that. Love Josh Allen's ceiling.
Yeah, I like that pick. I mean, since you already have Diggs, I do like that pick. Marvin Jones just went. I think I'm going to go get a tight end right here. And that tight end is going to be Evan Ingram with an ADP of 65, and I'm getting him at pick 83. Fulfills my tight end 1 spot. And if he keeps on falling to me in this range of drafts, I'll take him.
I love that pick. He was basically the 3rd player on my list if one of Allen or Cooks went ahead of me. Definitely like Evan Ingram. There's a potential, really high upside tight end.
And I mean, right here, I think I'm going to target, a wide receiver. I could also go with my tight end too if I wanted to go that way. Like Hayden Hurst is still available, and then Hunter Henry as well. But I think I'm going to go wide receiver here, and I think I am going to take the one and only
Darius Slayton, aka Young Slay Godius. Love the pick. I mean, what a phenomenal pick. Best pick of the draft so far. Congratulations to you, sir.
Yep. I mean, you were definitely going to get him.
I feel,
didn't take him, so.
Guilty in saying that I was not going to take him. As great as he is and as much of a value as it is to get the clear-cut wide receiver 1 for the New York Giants at that spot, I'm thinking of doing something a little shifty right here. I'm going to grab my tight end 1 in Hayden Hurst, which is kind of a leap of faith, and then I'm going to swing back around, grab my 2nd quarterback in Matt Ryan, who you were talking about there, and I'm going to have a full-on Falcons stack here with Matt Ryan, Calvin Ridley, and Hayden Hurst.
Okay, I like that. I kind of saw that coming for your team because, like you said, you have Calvin Ridley, so that's why I mentioned it beforehand. Good pickup. I like the double stack.
Normally, I would not take Hayden Hurst that high. I don't necessarily believe that he's going to be better than Hunter Henry or Mike Gesicki or Noah Fant even. But with this team, like we've talked about on the podcast countless times, if I believe that this team is going to be good enough to win out of 5,000 people and I drafted Matt Ryan, well, then I think that some of the guys around Matt Ryan are going to have great seasons as well. So for this specific team, if I am drafting Matt Ryan, I think that Hayden Hurst makes a lot of sense, and I had no tight end at that spot. So, yeah, fired that off. And then you take, I'm loving your team. Tevin Coleman in that spot at 103. Absolutely love Tevin Coleman.
I'm definitely taking a quarterback right here. Like you mentioned, I could go Stafford or Brady to complete the stack. But I think I'm going to go with Brady here. His ADP is 75, so I got him about, 40-something picks after ADP. So solid value at this point in the draft. Pairs well with Chris Godwin in an offense where they are going to throw the ball and there should be plenty of fantasy points to go around. Although I will say, I was watching this video on YouTube the other day, and Bruce Arians wants to run a very balanced offense. I think the video was on Ronald Jones, actually, not on Tom Brady. But when the Bucs were winning, they were throwing at about a 52% rate and running at obviously a 48% rate. But when they were losing, they were throwing at like a 70% rate, right? So you expect with Brady, who is ball control, won't make mistakes, and won't, hurt the team, to be leading in a lot of these games, whereas Winston, he's throwing an interception every single game. Averaged almost 2 interceptions a game, constantly turning the ball over, putting the Bucs down on the scoreboard. So balanced offense could hurt Tom Brady's production, but I think at that point, solid value.
I like that. And right here at the turn, I got my tight end too, and Noah Fant. He's one of a few guys left that I think has really high upside. And then I capped it off with my 5th wide receiver, Robbie Anderson. I like Anderson. I wasn't too high on him early in the best ball process, but I've come around. I think that he's going to operate really well as that deep threat. I think he's a clear-cut upgrade on Curtis Samuel, who they used as a deep threat last year. And, Robbie Anderson is definitely a player I'm going to look to target in these drafts around this spot, a few picks later than his ADP. Panthers' new coach, Matt Rule, has said that there's going to be a concerted effort for Teddy Bridgewater to throw the ball deep in this offense. So I like Anderson in that role.
Yeah, I like Anderson too. If he goes after ADP.
So you went Stafford, coming back around there. I like that. You've secured a double stack with Tom Brady to Godwin and Matthew Stafford to Kenny Golladay. 2 stacks that I think offer a ton of upside, frankly.
And I have your team on the screen right now. So, for all the viewers out there, Josh Allen, Matt Ryan, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Kareem Hunt, Aaron Jones, Christian McCaffrey, Noah Fant, Hayden Hurst. This is 2 tight ends. Robbie Anderson, Brandon Cooks, Diggs, and Calvin Ridley and A.J. Brown.
I love my team so far, up to this point. There's not a clear-cut wide receiver 1, which might bother some people, but I don't think you need that because just, this is sort of spilling over from all the time invested in DFS. It's just like these wide receivers that on DraftKings, for example, are like, around 4K, 4K to 4.5K on a weekly basis. One of those guys is going to pop off. So I like grabbing these wide receivers that are going to have those pop-off weeks and give you 30. I'll load up my team with 9 wide receivers that can just alternate on their blow-up weeks. I don't need to get a guy like Julio Jones or something like that. I just don't think it's necessarily, a necessity when you can get guys like A.J. Brown, Calvin Ridley, Steph Diggs, Brandon Cooks. Like, these are all guys who are capable of dropping, 20 to 25 points, every now and then. And it's just a matter of getting enough of those weeks from those guys to put up solid numbers.
With the tight end 2 here, and I think it's going to fall in line for me to draft T.J. Hawkinson at this point. 6 picks below ADP will go well with my Stafford and Golladay stack. And as my tight end 2, I think he's a solid pick right here. So if he's here, I'm going to take him. If not, I'll look towards maybe Ian Thomas or even Jack Doyle. But,
you're getting sniped heavy so far. And there goes Jack Doyle. I mean, Jared Cook is on the board well below his ADP. He has an ADP in the top 100. I mean, even still, I like guys like Ian Thomas more than him. But, I mean, this is a spot where I guess taking Jared Cook would be appropriate if that's your flavor.
Yeah, kind of debating right now. Kind of put a wrinkle into my plans. Man, I don't know what to do.
I'm feeling that same way, so take your time, because I don't know what to do with this turn either. This is where the draft gets tricky.
I think I'm gonna reach on Ian.
Solid pick. If you hadn't gone there, I might have gotten him as my tight end 3 and then looked to draft Teddy Bridgewater late to pair with Robbie Anderson and Ian Thomas. That is no longer an option. I'm not going to take Jared Cook. I'm not going to do it. He's old and decrepit, and Drew Brees. No, I'm not going to do it. Like, I can't, right?
Do it.
Nah, because guys like Josh Oliver are going to go in the last round, and that's where I need to be at. You know what I mean? This is just a terrible spot in the draft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some high upside running back. My running back 5, fifth and final running back of the draft. I'm going to take Chase Edmonds, who I don't think has an insane amount of week-to-week value, but I think that he has RB1 upside in the event that Kenyon Drake ever goes down. I mean, we saw it in spurts last year before the Cardinals acquired Kenyon Drake when David Johnson wasn't performing well. Chase Edmonds looked like an absolute monster out there. So, yeah, I like Baker Mayfield's value here. I don't have any Browns, and I've already got 2 quarterbacks. You know what I'm going to do here? I'm going to make a pick that I know you're not going to be a fan of. I'm going to take my 3rd quarterback. I'm going to take Mr. Ryan Tannehill. How do you feel about that? I mean, obviously the reasoning is that I have A.J. Brown on my team, and that locks up 3 stacks. Josh Allen to Diggs, Matt Ryan to Ridley and Hurst, and then Ryan Tannehill to A.J. Brown. Tannehill was not my favorite guy there. I do like Baker Mayfield a little bit more. Cam Newton is in that conversation, but it's fine. It was past ADP, and I have A.J. Brown.
Yeah, I mean, you have A.J. Brown, so I could see the reasoning behind the pick, even if I don't necessarily agree with it. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of stuck right here because it's like a lot of trash left. I mean, Jared Cook is the clear-cut value at this point, as he's 55 plus picks below ADP. I could reach on a tight end here, but I mean, I think I'm just gonna take best value. So Jared Cook.
I mean, normally I think that there's really no excuse to draft Jared Cook this year, but I mean, the value there, I think it's appropriate. I was considering him there at the turn as well. So
I think I'm going to go with one of my guys that I discussed for this year. On one of the recent episodes of the DFS Dose podcast, which you can find on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, Podcast Addict. Paris Campbell as my wide receiver 6. I think.
Yeah, you know you had to get him before I sniped you again too.
Yeah, that's facts. And I mean, you're definitely not going to draft Rivers since you already have 3 quarterbacks, so I can target Rivers again as my QB3.
I'm going to say this too, Joey. I did a draft this morning before we did this one, and Phillip Rivers went undrafted, and I was a little bit shook because I was just. I'm not sure what I saw. Now, at this point in the draft for me at the turn, I feel like I'm almost committed into taking not taking any more running backs because I spent so much at the position. I really want to take Antonio Gibson at this point, but I'm not going to do it because I just think that it's poor construction. And you know what? I'm going to pull the trigger. Antonio Brown is my wide receiver 6. Yeah.
I was going to if you
I had to make that pick there, and then coming back, I don't love any of these wide receivers that are available.
How about Deshaun Jackson?
I wasn't taking Deshaun Jackson before he retweeted Hitler or whatever it is that he did. And I'm definitely not taking him now. But yeah, I mean, I think that he's pretty solidly behind both Jalen Reagor, Alshon Jeffrey, and I think that Marquise Goodwin, who is going undrafted in every draft, is probably better at the deep ball speed routes than Deshaun Jackson is at this point in their careers. I'm going to take a guy here. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to pull the trigger on Gibson because I think he has the highest upside available of anybody in this available player pool.
Okay, Antonio Gibson as your RB6.
I didn't want to draft an RB6. That's the only problem, I think. But
yeah, I mean, you're looking at having a construction of 6 running backs, 8 wide receivers, and probably a third tight end with one of the guys that you might like later. With this pick, I think I'm going to go with Michael Pittman Jr. right at his ADP. He's going at pick 163. This is pick 163. And like we just talked about, I can get Rivers at this next pick at 178 as he's not even being drafted in some of these leagues. So if I can get the stack of Rivers, Pittman, and Paris Campbell, I think that's a very high upside and a sneaky stack.
I like that. And it just shows, like, I'll say some people have done these drafts, and I know for a fact that they are just auto-drafting based off their rankings. And I get it. If you're really confident in your rankings, why you would want to do that. But to me, like what Joey's doing right here, he's basically plotting out his team like 3 rounds in advance. He's taking Paris Campbell at 158 and then bringing it back with Pittman at 163. He might not take Rivers until, 2 picks from now. You could probably wait after pick 178 and come back with your next pick and take Rivers. And just like putting that extra thought into it, I think gives you an edge when some people aren't doing that. So.
Yeah, that's definitely, like a bigger conversation to be had. Like, we could talk about this for the entirety of the video, and I think that's one of the biggest aspects of drafting teams in, these tournament formats is doing what we're doing and plotting out what we're going to do and the strategy we have and the players we're going to target, 15, 20, 30 picks beforehand, and not just going based off, a set list of rankings, because you can construct your teams in so many different ways that you always have to be looking for that value.
And it's the same conversation that people have in the DFS industry every year when it comes to, just running scripts and having a lineup builder or optimizer build your teams versus hand building them. I mean, I've pretty much always been somebody who hand builds. I don't max enter 150 teams per week, but I'll make 10, 20 lineups by hand every week and put, countless hours of thought into them. And, they may not hit, but at least I know that like each and every decision I made was for a single reason and not just based off numbers that are frankly often inaccurate.
Yeah. I mean, you could definitely use your rankings as a...
You have to use rankings and projections as part of it, but thought process is also part of it. And I think that that's getting more and more lost.
Fantasy industry is really low on Phillip Rivers, and that's probably the one guy we agree on to, capitalize on him while his ADP is this low. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm going to take him here. Well, granted, unless I get sniped again, but
I mean, I'm not taking him, but maybe Fish Boy, who only has 2 quarterbacks, would. So I guess it is probably the smart thing to take him here, unless, of course, Willis snipes you here with 177.
Yeah, but Willis also has 3 quarterbacks, so it'd be kind of suboptimal for him to draft a 4th quarterback when he only has 2 tight ends, 6 running backs, and 6 wide receivers. So that should be good on Rivers here. 9 picks below ADP, so getting a little value on Rivers here. I mean, he got Deshaun Jackson like 50 picks below ADP. I don't know if I agree with that, but I'm going to take Phillip Rivers here, complete the triple stack of my team, and I have 3 quarterbacks that could all realistically finish as QB1s this year. So
yeah, that's
feeling
solid.
good.
I got 2 guys that I want to take here, 2 wide receivers, so I hope Fishboy doesn't snipe me with either guys, and he doesn't because he reaches on an absolute scrub with Sims.
Nah, I wouldn't take Sims in the 18th round, but I would take him in, the 19th and the 20th.
Well, I'm going to go here at pick 180. I mean, this is an easy pick to make.
Let me guess. You got 30 seconds.
Take a look at the board, bro.
So it's probably. I mean, I think you're gonna go, John Ross here.
That's correct. Do you know who the second one I'm gonna take is?
What is this?
Wide receiver. My final wide receiver. Wide receiver 8 for this roster. I mean, it should be obvious.
Obvious. I mean, you could go Tyrell here. It's a solid value. But I think you're going to go Cole Beasley.
Honestly, you're a disgrace. I'm going to take Denzel Mims with pick 181. Oh. Cole Beasley, Tyrell Williams. When the next Chris Godwin is out there on the board,
Denzel.
Hell no, I'm taking Denzel Mims. You already know.
Hey man, Cole Beasley would have went well with your bill stack.
I mean, you're right about that, but not when I got the man, the myth, the legend out there. Can't do it. Got to stay on brand. Speaking of our guys, a recent podcast we did. I went on a sort of a speech about Denzel Mims, which you should check out if you haven't seen it. All the reasons why he is a phenomenal pick as the Jets' up-and-coming wide receiver 1. Gio Bernard goes a little bit early right after him there, in my opinion, but I guess he is a solid handcuff to Joe Mixon.
Now, see, I could go a running back or a wide receiver here, right? And I'm not a fan of Tyrell or Dede or even Corey Davis. I'm not a fan of any of these wide receivers on the board. So I think I'm going to go running back here. I mean, if he falls to me at pick 198, 2 picks before the end of the draft, I'll take him. But I think I'm going to go right at ADP here. Get my RB6 as a guy that we're both high on.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a pretty obvious pick.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, all the injuries that Sony's dealt with. James White not really a threat for that in between the tackles running back role. Damian Harris's path to being, the quote unquote starting running back for the Patriots is pretty clear in my opinion. Chenault goes right after him.
All right, with this pick, I have to take a wide receiver here, and I guess it's out of 3 players for me. Tyrell Williams, Corey Davis, or T. Higgins. All would be considered, value at this moment in the draft. And I guess it's all about who I figure has the highest upside this year. And that would be T. Higgins.
Yeah. I don't hate it. Cole Beasley, who I guess, deserves to be drafted, goes 199. And then Mr. Irrelevant with the final pick here is somebody who I would never call irrelevant because I think that there's a good shot he's the next Darren Waller. Obviously, I'm taking Josh Oliver with pick 200 as my tight end 3. Now, is there a shot that Josh Oliver is Tyler Eifert's backup? Maybe. But I have trusted sources in the tight end field who have told me that Josh Oliver is somebody worth looking at. And so with that pick, obviously I'm going to close out the team with Josh Oliver.
All right, and that concludes this Drafters Fantasy Best Ball Championship draft. I have the draft board on the screen right now, so if people just want to sit and look at it, I mean, definitely some interesting picks, like George Kittle went at pick 14, and then who else went very high above ADP? N'Keal Harry went kind of early at pick 114, and then got some interesting teams here. Ben has a solid team out of the 1 spot. I think I also have a pretty solid squad out of the 3 spot. I'm not seeing anything that stands out in particular to me. Do you have anything that you want to?
Unfortunately, I can't see the draft board right now, so I would just be going off of memory. I mean, the Kittle pick really stood out to me. I get it. I like Kittle a lot, and I think he's worth a second-round pick, but taking him over Travis Kelce to me is just not optimal. I know some of the picks that stood out to me. I really like the turn that you had around pick 100 where you grabbed Darius Slayton and Tevin Coleman. I really think that added some, dynamic aspects to your roster. And yeah, just the fact that both of us managed to hit triple stacks is just what I would call a successful draft. You're just tapping into correlated upside, and that is literally key to trying to take one of these things down. And I think that not everybody's doing it. I don't have the numbers in front of me I don't know right now how many of these teams did or didn't stack, but in the one that we did for our podcast league, 20% of the field wasn't stacking, and that's just clear edge for us. So as long as that continues to be a trend,